The deafening blast of the emergency alarm yanked Leo Keller out of his sleep, red lights flashing across his quarters as the colony ship's AI announced in its emotionless voice, "Breach detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. Leo tumbled out of bed, scrambling for his emergency kit as the floor beneath him trembled. He'd been the lead xenobiologist on this mission for 3 years, mapping the habitable zones of Proxima Centauri b, but nothing in his training had prepared him for a hull breach during deep space transit. Racing through the corridor, he collided with Dr. Mei Zhang, the ship's chief engineer, her face etched with panic. "What the hell happened?" Leo gasped, struggling to keep pace with her as they headed toward the escape pods. "Something hit us," she panted. But the debris sensors didn't detect anything approaching. "It's like it came out of nowhere." They rounded a corner to find Captain Richards standing before the escape pod bay, his expression grim as crew members filed in behind him. "We've lost propulsion," Richards announced. "And whatever hit us wasn't a meteor. The damage pattern is too deliberate." Leo felt his stomach drop. "You're saying we were attacked?" Before Richards could answer, the lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness before the emergency power kicked in. In that brief moment of restored light, Leo saw something that made his blood run cold, a shimmer in the air, like heat rising from pavement, but moving with purpose. The shimmer materialized into a form that was undeniably alien tall, with an exoskeleton that reflected the emergency lights in prismatic patterns. Its 4 arms ended in delicate appendages, and its head, if you could call it that, housed 3 large eyes arranged in a triangle. Leo's scientific mind kicked into overdrive even as fear paralyzed him. He cataloged details automatically. Bipedal stance, suggesting convergent evolution. Reflective exoskeleton, suggesting adaptation to intense solar radiation. Multiple limbs indicating a different evolutionary path than Earth's bilateral symmetry. The alien wasn't alone. 5 more materialized behind it, each slightly different in coloration but similar in form. "Do not be alarmed," the lead alien said, its voice coming not from any visible mouth but seemingly projected directly into Leo's mind. "We are not here to harm you." Captain Richards, trained for first contact protocols but clearly never expecting to use them, stepped forward cautiously. "I am Captain Richards of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. Who are you, and why have you disabled our ship?" The alien's eyes blinked in sequence. "I am Professor Zelith of the Interstellar Academy of Xenology. These are my students. We are on a field expedition to study emerging spacefaring species. Your vessel presented an opportunity for direct observation." Leo couldn't believe what he was hearing. They'd been disabled by alien students on a field trip? "You damaged our ship for a school project?" Dr. Zhang asked incredulously. "The damage was unintentional," another alien, slightly smaller than Zelith, projected. "Our docking procedure was imprecise. We apologize for the distress caused." Captain Richards looked like he was struggling to process this bizarre turn of events. "Can you repair the damage you've caused?" "Yes," Professor Zelith responded. "But we request permission to continue our observational study while repairs are conducted. This is a rare opportunity for my students to interact with humans in your natural habitat." Leo found his voice. "Natural habitat? We're in a spaceship. For this stage of your species development, space vessels are becoming part of your extended habitat," the professor explained. "We find your adaptation methods fascinating." After a tense negotiation, Captain Richards reluctantly agreed to allow the alien students to observe the crew while their vessel cloaked somewhere nearby sent over repair drones to fix the damage they'd caused. Which was how Leo found himself, 12 hours later, being followed around by an alien student named KRYX as he tried to go about his daily routine in the biology lab. And these samples represent the microbiome of Proxima B's northern continent. KRYX asked, leaning uncomfortably close to Leo's microscope. The alien didn't seem to have a concept of personal space. Yes, Leo replied, trying to focus on his work. We're cataloging potential pathogens before sending human exploration teams to the surface. Fascinating. Kerouac's mental voice had a tone of genuine enthusiasm. Your species takes such precautions despite your biological fragility. Leo felt a twinge of annoyance. We're not that fragile. Your carbon-based structure is susceptible to temperatures, pressures, and radiation levels that would merely inconvenience my species, Kerouac observed. Yet you venture into space nonetheless. It shows remarkable determination. Leo wasn't sure if he'd just been insulted or complimented. He decided to take it as the latter. It's nearly time for my break, Leo said, saving his work and standing up. I need to get something to drink. I will accompany you, Kerouac announced, following Leo out of the lab. Professor Zelith encourages us to observe all aspects of human behavior, including nutritional intake. The ship's cafeteria was bustling with an unusual mix of human crew members and alien students. Leo noted with amusement that some of his colleagues seemed to be enjoying the novel experience, engaging their observers in animated conversations, while others sat stiffly, clearly uncomfortable with the scrutiny. Leo approached the beverage dispenser and selected coffee, desperately needing the caffeine after his interrupted sleep. The machine hummed as it dispensed the steaming dark liquid into his mug. He turned to find Kerouac staring at him with all three eyes widened in what Leo interpreted as alarm. Is that poison? Kerouac projected, the mental voice tinged with horror. Leo paused, the mug halfway to his lips. What? No, it's coffee. By now, 3 other alien students had gathered around, their attention fixated on Leo's mug. One of them, whom Leo had heard called Drix, extended a sensory appendage toward the steam rising from the mug. It contains methylxanthine alkaloids, Drix announced to the others. Primarily caffeine, theobromine, and theophylline. These are toxic substances. Actually, Leo began, but was interrupted by another student. The human is deliberately consuming a neurotoxin, this one projected with what sounded like excited fascination. Professor Zelith, you must observe this behavior. Professor Zelith glided over, 3 eyes blinking in sequence as they focused on Leo's coffee mug. Explain this practice, Scientist Keller, Zelith requested. Our scans indicate you are ingesting a substance that would be classified as a poison on at least 17 known worlds. Leo suddenly found himself the center of attention, with not only the alien students but also several of his human colleagues watching the exchange with varying degrees of amusement. Coffee isn't poison to humans, Leo explained, feeling slightly ridiculous. Yes, it contains caffeine, which is technically a natural pesticide that the coffee plant produces to kill insects that try to eat it. But in the quantities we consume it, it's a stimulant that helps us stay alert and focused. You deliberately consume a substance that evolved specifically to kill creatures that tried to eat the plant. Professor Zelith's mental voice contained unmistakable surprise. Fascinating. Is this common among humans? Dr. Zhang, who had been listening nearby, chimed in. Coffee is one of the most widely consumed beverages on Earth. Billions of people drink it daily. But our scans indicate it increases heart rate, blood pressure, and produces a mild adrenal response, one of the students projected. These are stress indicators. Why would you voluntarily stress your biological systems? Leo took a deliberate sip of his coffee, noting the aliens watching the action with intense focus. The effects are mild and generally pleasant for us. The caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in our brains, which helps prevent fatigue. So humans have adapted to derive benefit from a substance that would normally be harmful, Professor Zelith observed. This suggests remarkable metabolic plasticity. It's not just coffee, Dr. Carter, the ship's botanist, added from a nearby table. Humans consume all sorts of things that contain mild toxins: chocolate, tea, certain spices. Our bodies have evolved to not only tolerate these substances, but in some cases benefit from them. The alien students were now projecting a cacophony of excited thoughts at their professor, creating a mental buzz that Leo found slightly disorienting. One at a time, Professor Zelith admonished the group before turning back to Leo. Would it be possible for my students to observe more examples of this phenomenon? This represents an unexpected aspect of human biology that our preliminary research did not reveal. And that was how Leo's routine workday transformed into an impromptu seminar on human consumption habits that most people took for granted. The aliens followed him and a growing group of curious human crew members to the cafeteria's food dispensers, watching in fascination as they selected various items. "This contains capsaicin," Drix announced, scanning a bowl of pasta with red pepper flakes that Lieutenant Parker had selected. "It's an irritant that produces pain signals. We call it spice," Parker explained. "Many humans enjoy the sensation." "You derive pleasure from pain?" another student asked, clearly struggling with the concept. "Not exactly," Leo tried to explain. "It's more like a controlled intensity. The capsaicin triggers pain receptors, but our brains also release endorphins in response. Many humans enjoy that combination." "And this?" K.R. inquired, indicating the chocolate pudding on Dr. Zhang's tray. "Chocolate contains theobromine," Leo explained. "Related to caffeine, but with different effects. It's toxic to some Earth animals like dogs, but humans can metabolize it safely." Professor Zelith's eyes blinked in their sequential pattern. "It appears humans have evolved an unusual relationship with plant defense chemicals. Rather than avoiding plants that produce toxins, you've developed metabolic pathways to detoxify these compounds and, in some cases, derive benefits from them." Leo nodded. "It's probably related to our omnivorous evolution. Being able to detoxify a wider range of plant compounds gave us more dietary options." "Do you think," K.R. projected hesitantly, "it might be possible to analyze the effects more directly?" Leo raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" "Perhaps a small sample of coffee could be provided for chemical analysis," the alien student clarified. "We would not attempt consumption, merely a molecular breakdown." Captain Richards, who had been silently observing the exchange, stepped forward. "I think we can arrange that, as long as your analysis methods don't involve anything that might compromise our ship's systems." The alien students projected such intense excitement that Leo felt a momentary headache forming from the mental bombardment. "We have portable analysis equipment on our vessel," Professor Zelith explained. "With your permission, we could bring it aboard." Richards nodded cautiously. "Approved, but I want Dr. Keller and Dr. Zhang to supervise the process." 2 hours later, Leo found himself in one of the ship's conference rooms, watching as the alien students set up equipment that defied his understanding of physics. Transparent containers that seemed to fold in on themselves, instruments that hovered without visible support, and screens that displayed information in multiple dimensions. "Our analysis suite is calibrated for multispectral biochemical assessment," Professor Zelith explained as the equipment assembled itself. "It can break down any compound to its constituent molecules and simulate its interaction with various biological systems." Leo placed a fresh cup of coffee on the designated platform, and the equipment hummed to life. The liquid seemed to shimmer as invisible energies passed through it, and the multidimensional display erupted with cascading data. "Remarkable," Drix projected, manipulating the display with delicate appendages. "The caffeine molecule binds to adenosine receptors as you described, but there are over 1,000 additional compounds present, many with bioactive properties." "Coffee is chemically complex," Leo agreed. "That's part of why it has such a distinctive taste and aroma." "What's more fascinating," another student projected, "is how your digestive and metabolic systems process these compounds. The simulation indicates that while many would be toxic in isolation or higher concentrations, your liver effectively neutralizes them." Professor Zelith moved closer to the display. This suggests humans have co-evolved with these plants over thousands of years, developing specific enzymatic pathways to detoxify these compounds. Dr. Zhang, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. That's not surprising. Coffee cultivation dates back at least 1,000 years on Earth, and humans have likely been consuming wild coffee cherries for much longer. But it's not just adaptation through artificial selection, Leo added. Humans across all genetic lineages can process these compounds. It's more likely that our detoxification abilities evolved in response to a wide range of plant compounds in our ancestral diet, and coffee just happens to contain chemicals we can already process. The discussion continued for hours, expanding beyond coffee to other human consumables that contained what the aliens considered toxins: chocolate, tea, spices, fermented foods, and even the tannins in wine. Leo found himself enjoying the exchange, his scientific curiosity engaged by seeing familiar substances through alien perspectives. Would it be permitted, Kerouac projected hesitantly during a lull in the conversation, to observe the physiological effects of coffee consumption more directly? Leo raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? Perhaps a monitoring of your biological responses during and after consumption? Our scanners can track neurological, cardiovascular, and metabolic changes non-invasively. Captain Richards, who had been periodically checking in on the proceedings, looked skeptical. Is that safe? Completely, Professor Zelith assured him. The technology uses quantum resonance to observe molecular states without interaction. There is zero risk to Scientist Keller or any human subject. After some discussion, Leo agreed to be monitored while consuming coffee the following morning, when the effects would be most pronounced after his sleep cycle. The next day, Leo sat in the conference room with an array of alien scanning equipment hovering around him. He felt slightly self-conscious as 6 alien students and Professor Zelith watched him with unblinking eyes. Proceed when ready, Professor Zelith projected. The baseline readings have been established. Leo raised the coffee mug to his lips and took a long sip, the familiar bitter warmth flooding his mouth. He swallowed, aware of the slight tang at the back of his throat and the comforting heat spreading down his esophagus. Fascinating, one of the students projected. The digestive process begins immediately. Salivary enzymes are already interacting with the compounds. I'm detecting increased blood flow to the hepatic system, another noted. The liver is beginning to process the incoming alkaloids. Leo took another sip, larger this time. It usually takes about 15 to 30 minutes for me to feel the full effects, he explained. The aliens continued their observations, commenting on every minute change in Leo's physiology as the caffeine entered his bloodstream and began affecting various systems. It was strange hearing his own biological processes described in such detail, like listening to a live commentary of his own metabolism. Heart rate has increased by 12%, Drix announced. Blood pressure elevated by 8%. Cerebral blood flow patterns are shifting, another student observed, particularly in the prefrontal cortex. I'm beginning to feel it now, Leo commented after about 20 minutes. There's a sense of increased alertness, focus. My thoughts seem clearer, and I feel more energetic. The adenosine antagonism is fully established, Professor Zelith noted. But there are secondary effects occurring beyond what we predicted. The caffeine is triggering cascading reactions in multiple neurochemical pathways. As the observation continued, more crew members drifted in, curious about the proceedings. Soon, several volunteered to be scanned while consuming different substances: Dr. Zhang with green tea, Lieutenant Parker with a spicy food challenge, and Dr. Carter with dark chocolate. The alien students were ecstatic at the wealth of data, their mental projections bubbling with excitement as they compared the varying human responses. Your species shows remarkable individual variation in metabolic processing, Professor Zelith observed. Some of you process caffeine twice, as quickly as others. That's genetic, Leo explained. Some people have variants of the CYP1A2 enzyme that metabolizes caffeine more efficiently. Yet despite these variations, all of you have developed cultural practices around consuming these substances, the professor noted. It's an intersection of biology and social behavior that we find particularly interesting. As the day progressed, the atmosphere in the conference room grew increasingly collegial. The initial wariness between the humans and their alien observers had given way to genuine scientific exchange. Even Captain Richards seemed to have relaxed his guard, engaging Professor Zelith in a discussion about interstellar navigation techniques. During a brief lull, Leo approached KRYX, who was reviewing data from the morning's observations. "I'm curious," Leo said. "What do people consume? Do you have anything similar to our coffee or tea?" KRYX's mental projection carried a tone of amusement. "We do not require stimulants to maintain alertness. Our neurological systems have natural cycling patterns that maintain optimal function for up to 70 of your hours before requiring regenerative rest." "That sounds convenient," Leo remarked. "But I meant more generally, what do you eat or drink? What's considered a delicacy in your culture?" KRYX seemed to consider this for a moment. "We absorb nutrients through specialized membranes," the alien explained, indicating faint patterns on what Leo had thought was simply exoskeleton. "Our primary sustenance comes from photosynthetic bacteria that we cultivate within specialized chambers in our bodies." "You photosynthesize?" Leo was fascinated. "But you must need more than just light energy for complex biological functions." "Correct. We also consume mineral-rich solutions that provide trace elements." "What you might find interesting is that we do have substances considered recreational, though not exactly parallel to your coffee." "Really?" Leo leaned forward, intrigued. "Like what?" "There is a compound we call Vasher," KRYX projected, the mental voice taking on a quality Leo interpreted as nostalgia. "It temporarily enhances our sensory perception, particularly our ability to perceive quantum states. It is popular among students during intensive study periods." Leo laughed. "So, you do have your own version of coffee after all." The conversation was interrupted by an announcement from the ship's AI. "Repair completion estimated in 4 hours. All systems will require reboot and calibration." Professor Zelith approached Captain Richards. "Your vessel will soon be restored to full functionality. We apologize again for the disruption." Richards nodded. "No permanent harm done. And I suppose this unexpected encounter has been educational for both our species." "Indeed," the professor agreed. "My students have gathered more valuable data from this direct interaction than they would have from a standard observational orbit. Your crew's willingness to explain your biological and cultural practices has been most informative." "Before you go," Leo interjected, "I have a proposal. Since we've shared so much about our consumption habits and physiology, would it be possible for us to learn more about yours? A cultural exchange, if you will." Professor Zelith's eyes blinked in their sequential pattern. "What do you propose, Scientist Keller?" "You've analyzed our coffee and observed its effects on us. Would it be possible for us to learn about substances your species consumes? Not to try them," Leo added quickly, seeing Captain Richards' alarmed expression, "but to understand them scientifically." The alien professor seemed to consider this for a moment. Such an exchange would be unprecedented, but not prohibited. It would need to be conducted with appropriate safeguards. Captain Richards stepped forward. "Dr. Keller, a word?" They moved to a corner of the room, speaking in hushed tones. "Are you sure this is wise?" Richards asked. "We know nothing about their biochemistry or the potential hazards." "That's precisely my point," Leo argued. "This is a unique opportunity to learn about a completely alien biochemistry from willing teachers. The scientific value is incalculable." Richards frowned. "No consumption of alien substances. Observation and analysis only. And Dr. Zhang supervises all equipment they bring aboard." Leo nodded. "Agreed." They returned to Professor Zelith, who had been conferring mentally with the students. "We accept your proposal," the professor projected. "We will provide samples of 3 substances significant to our species for your scientific analysis. No consumption will be permitted, as they would likely be highly toxic to your biology." Over the next few hours, as the repair drones completed their work on the ship's hull, the conference room was transformed into an impromptu xenobiochemistry lab. The alien students brought samples of substances from their vessel, each contained in transparent containers that seemed to bend light around them. "This is Vasher," Karotex explained, indicating a crystalline substance that shifted colors as Leo observed it. "The recreational compound I mentioned." "And this," another student projected, pointing to a viscous fluid that moved with apparent intelligence, "is Meldrith. It enhances our photosynthetic efficiency by 47% and is considered essential nutrition for juvenile development." The third sample, Professor Zelith indicated a fine powder that seemed to hover between solid and gas states, is xanther. It facilitates neural synchronization during communal decision-making processes. What you might call a social lubricant. Leo and Dr. Zhang carefully analyzed the samples using both the ship's equipment and the more advanced alien technology. The results were astonishing, revealing molecular structures and energy states that defied Earth-based chemistry. "The Vasher compound appears to function by temporarily altering quantum entanglement patterns in neural tissues," Dr. Zhang noted, studying the readouts. "I've never seen anything like it. Our neurology operates partially on quantum principles," Karotex explained. "Vasher enhances our ability to perceive multiple probability states simultaneously." Leo shook his head in wonder. "That's beyond our current understanding of consciousness. Our brains operate primarily through electrochemical processes. Yet you achieve remarkable cognitive complexity despite these limitations," Professor Zelith observed. "Your species' adaptability continues to impress us." As the day progressed, the exchange of knowledge deepened. The humans shared details about Earth's diverse ecosystems and biological adaptations, while the aliens explained aspects of their evolutionary history and physiology. Both sides recorded vast amounts of data, the first true scientific exchange between their species. Captain Richards received word that the repairs were complete and the ship systems were coming back online. Their unexpected first contact was drawing to a close. "We must prepare to depart," Professor Zelith announced to the gathered humans. "Our academic expedition has a strict timeline, and we have several more observation targets to visit before returning to our institution." "Before you go," Leo said, "I have something for you." He handed Professor Zelith a small container. A sealed sample of coffee beans, with detailed information on preparation methods and the various ways humans enjoy it, for your xenobiology archives. The alien's eyes blinked in sequence. "A thoughtful gesture, Scientist Keller. In return, I am authorized to provide you with this." The professor handed Leo a small device that looked like a crystalline cube. "It contains observational data on 17 spacefaring species we have studied, including basic biological and technological information. Your superiors may find it valuable in preparing for future encounters." Captain Richards looked stunned. "That's incredibly generous. Knowledge should be shared among those who seek it responsibly," Professor Zelith projected. "Our assessment indicates your species is approaching a critical developmental threshold. This information may help ease your transition into the wider galactic community." The implications were enormous. Leo realized they were being offered a roadmap to humanity's future among the stars. As the alien delegation prepared to depart, Leo approached KRYX one final time. "It's been fascinating learning from you," he said. "I hope our species will meet again under less accidental circumstances." "I believe we will," KRYX projected, the mental voice warm with what Leo interpreted as friendship. "My research thesis will focus on human adaptability," particularly your remarkable ability to derive benefit from substances that evolved to deter consumption. It is a characteristic that may serve your species well as you explore beyond your solar system. Just wait until you learn about alcohol, Leo joked. We already have. KRYX's mental projection carried amusement. The deliberate consumption of ethanol, a solvent and neurotoxin, for recreational purposes was noted in our preliminary research. We simply didn't realize the pattern extended to so many other substances. The aliens departed as mysteriously as they had arrived, their vessel decloaking briefly before disappearing into the vastness of space. The Horizon's crew gathered in the observation deck, watching the distortion of stars that marked the alien ship's passage. "Well," Captain Richards said, breaking the silence, "that wasn't in the mission parameters." Leo laughed. "First contact over coffee. Who would have predicted that? What do you think they'll tell their academic colleagues about us?" Dr. Zhang wondered. "Probably that humans are the species crazy enough to drink poison for pleasure," Lieutenant Parker suggested with a grin. "Maybe," Leo said, looking at the crystalline data cube in his hand. "But I think they saw something more. They saw our adaptability, our curiosity, our willingness to take calculated risks. Those are traits that have gotten humanity this far, and they'll take us further still." As the Horizon continued its journey to Proxima Centauri b, Leo found himself looking at his morning coffee with new appreciation. What had been a simple daily ritual now represented something profound: humanity's unique relationship with its environment, turning potential threats into benefits through innovation and adaptation. And somewhere out there, a group of alien students was probably explaining to their peers how humans had turned plant defense chemicals into a global cultural touchstone, a bitter brew that had fueled scientific revolutions, artistic movements, and now, humanity's first steps into a much larger community among the stars. Leo raised his mug in a silent toast to the universe and all its strange wonders, both those they'd discovered and those still waiting beyond the next star. One sip at a time, humanity would find its place among them,